Beatrice Alice Smith. She was a woman who had committed a crime of passion, discovered her husband screwing her partner in the hairdressing business that she owned, lost her temper and strangled the bitch.
You didn't have the guts to take over when Bea Smith was here.
I'm not afraid of Bea Smith.
It's easy to say now she's gone.
I'd say it to her face, too.
Good. Here's your opportunity.
And it was great fun to play a character that was never wrong and totally invincible. Who wouldn't enjoy that? Always being right. I loved it. Oh, and so constantly concerned about her poor darling daughter Debbie, who died,
right.
and taking any young girl under her wing.
Oh, that reminds me, actually, of the tragedy there. I mean, an awful lot's happened to you in the 4.5 years in prison. Have you ever kept a catalogue of exactly the tragedies and disasters befallen you?
Not a full catalogue. I can give you a sort of a rundown, I suppose. Bea, it's so difficult, you see. Bea was convicted of murdering her husband's girlfriend. She served 10 years, during which time her daughter died of a drug overdose, for which Bea blamed her husband, so she managed to behave herself, get a parole. She was paroled out. The day after she was released, she killed her husband. Then she was put back into another life sentence, returned, during which time she was bashed, burned, stabbed very badly by an ex-prison officer who'd become a prisoner, and sent to hospital. She escaped from the hospital. She was recaptured. She suffered from amnesia. She suffered from claustrophobia. She was trapped in a caved-in tunnel. She was trapped in a burning prison. She suffered from depression. She contemplated suicide, but then turned around and killed Nola instead. She thought she was having a brain tumour, just like her mum had, but no, it turned out to be renal failure, so she had a kidney transplant. And so on.
It sounds like a day in the life of our royal family.
All that in 4.5 years.
All that in 4.5 years.
Keep out of it. You know nothing about me, what I think or feel. When I get out of here, I'm going to be 50 years old. Can you see any man waiting that long?
I was working in a regular company, and I said to my agent, I want out of this. I want to do something else. He said, oh, what would you like to do? And I said, oh, well, since you're asking, how about a long-running part in the television series, ha, ha, ha. And a couple of weeks later, she rang me and said, I've got a little audition for you. I want you to go and see some people about a new show coming up about a whole lot of women in prison. I think you'd be ideal for the Gestapo-style prison officer. Wow. And I went, oh, OK. So I read. I walked straight in, and the Kerry Spence was the casting director, and she said she'd seen all of my screen work. There wasn't a huge amount of it, but she knew my work. I mean, and she said, I think you'll be Smith material. And I was in and out of there in 5 minutes. She said, come back this afternoon and read. So I went back in the afternoon and I read, and they thought, yes, we like that. Then my agent rang me a couple of days later and said, they want to screen test you. So I screen tested with Colette Mann. And she and I tested together, and we both got the parts that we tested for. And they told her before they told me. And then I heard later that, you know, a lot of actresses, rather well-known actresses, had been up for the role, so I was very...
Hey, what do you reckon our chances are of knocking off a gold Logie?
Considering you died in 1986, B, I reckon Buckley's.
Hello? I'm sorry. I'm wondering if I can get something pressed.
Sure thing, sweetheart. All right, there you go, love.
Oh, thanks, B. You're a doll. See you later, Dor.
Oh, B, isn't she lovely?
Yeah, she's all right. For a cop.
We loved our crew, and on one occasion, we were all invited, well, the major cast members were invited to the Logies, as we usually were. Because it was a cast, largely full of women, unless you were actually nominated for an award or you were in the finals of the nominations, you didn't get invited with a partner, unlike the executives and the other, the producers and the directors. They all got invited with partners, but not the actors. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Anyway, on this occasion, I said, this isn't fair, let's do something about it. You can't invite a table full of women with no blokes, that's terrible. So we all jacked up and said, we're not going unless we can take a bloke with us. Well, I was already taking a bloke with me because I was, in fact, nominated and had a partner to go. But the girls won, and the TV Week said, yes, OK, you can invite a bloke, and they took a member of the crew with them as a guest to the Logies, which I thought was a great thing to do. I'm frequently asked what the food was like. Prison food on Prisoner. Well, I'm here to tell you that it wasn't terribly good, but the worst thing about it was, and of course a lot of people may not realise, that when you're shooting a television show and you're shooting 2 hours in 1 week, you don't shoot it all in sequence. You do all the corridor scenes one after the other, all together. You do all of the laundry scenes one after all together. And you do all the dining room scenes together. So if there are 8 dining room scenes in the 2 hours, then you've got to sit there at the dining table and cope with 8 meals. This is not good, particularly if it happens to be macaroni cheese. Mind you, if the food was actually any good, the crew used to eat it. The extras would eat anything. But I was actually in a position where I had decided very early that Bea liked her food, and she had a whole set of table manners that my mother would never have approved of. And she used to eat all her food up. So I really did this. And this was a great mistake because we had a lot of scenes to do together. That was a lot of food to get through. There was an episode once where I decided, because Bea was actually told, come on, the governor wants to see you, and she says, oh, but I'm having my lunch. And I said, too bad, and she's dragged away from the table. And on this particular occasion, the food wasn't bad. There were sausages. I quite like sausages. So I picked up a piece of bread, and I put the sausage in it, and I walked out of the scene, eating it. And of course they said, cut. Oh, God. I said, doesn't matter. We haven't shot the scene where I go to the governor's office yet, so he can have me still with it in my hand. We can redo, we can put, they went, you'll have to check back, make sure that look at all the tapes, make sure you're right. No, okay, all right. So then, of course, when I shot the scene in the car, they had to remember that I had to have a sausage in my hand. I did naughty things like that occasionally.
You threatening me?
Put it this way, my tubby little friend. I'm in here for murder, and that's only the one they got me on. I could always add one more.
Big deal.
Now, as you know, Bea Smith was a pretty tough character. But during the course of the show, there were other tough characters that came in. And generally, they made a challenge for the role of top dog. And so sometimes Bea, fought back, and sometimes she stood back and just let them go. On this particular occasion, no names, no Packville, I won't dob the actress in, but there was an actress who was to be challenging for the role of top dog. And she had to grab Doreen, played by Colette Mann, and shove her up against the wall and threaten her. And the rehearsal sort of went all right until finally Colette said, oh, I'm scared to death. And this girl said, this actress, what do you mean? He said, well, I don't think you're very realistic. When Val does that sort of thing to me, I pee myself. So obviously I was a bit frightening. We had an enormous number of extras working on the show too. And this is a story about 2 male extras that came in, and they were playing ambulance attendants. And this particular scene, they were to put Bea Smith, who was suffering from renal failure and was going to go into hospital to have a kidney transplant, and she was in a pretty bad way, and they had to put her on a stretcher and carry her out. And so we sort of did a rehearsal, and there was a floor manager, a marvellous man called Ray Lindsay, my favourite floor manager.
And they put me on the stretcher and they picked it up and they dropped me on the concrete floor. And the whole stretcher they dropped, actually. And I sort of got up and said, oh, and Ray came and said, you right, Val? I said, no, I'm fine, it's okay. We can just, he said, no. He said, no, you go off and have a cup of tea. I said, no, I'm all right, honestly. He said, no, you go off, go and have a cup of tea, Val, go on. So I went, oh, okay, I'm fine, no, go on. So off I went. Next thing I know, I hear over the PA system that we're not doing that scene, we're shooting something else. So I thought, oh, okay, so I wasn't in that scene, so I had a little rest for a while. And then they shot something else, and they shot the next thing in the schedule, and that scene wasn't being done. And then after lunch, it was we were called, oh, we're doing that scene again. So I went out to do the scene into the studio, and there's a whole 2 new, different ambulance men. And I said, what's going on? And the floor manager said, darling, you don't drop the star of the show on a concrete floor and then laugh. I sacked them. We had 2 whole new ambulance men. I hadn't even objected. I mean, I didn't think they'd done it on purpose, but maybe they did.
Put that cigarette out, Smith.
I only just lit it.
You heard me.
Bea had a huge problem with the freak because the freak was an unpleasant, nasty, dangerous bully.
Well done, Smith.
And was always picking on the weaker and more vulnerable, and generally Bea's friends, so Bea had to try and defend them.
What are you lot planning? How to get rid of the freak? What else? Well, forget it. That job's taken.
We had some tremendous scenes together, and in fact, I still say, 20 years later, that some of my very best scenes were done with Val.
Now, are you going to turn around and face me, or haven't you got the guts?
Oh, I thought I'd let you hit me from behind. It's more your style, isn't it?
Right. Come on. You'll have to take a shower. What? I don't want to. Don't be silly. You've got to have a shower. I already had one today. It's not the point. It's part of the regulations here. Oh, stuff the regulations. Dobson, you're not making a very good beginning to your stay here. Now, either you disrobe now, or we are going to have to do it for you. No, I don't want to.
The one very big, notable occasion, I read the story and I said, I absolutely refuse to be involved in that. It's rubbish. And the storyline was a young couple were arrested for shoplifting or something similar, and one of them was a boy. It's not a girl, but very feminine looking, and was inducted into the prison as a boy. I absolutely, flatly refused to be involved in anything so ridiculous. So you know what they did? They engineered for my character to escape, but she's never saw that storyline. And I never ever got to have to see that ridiculous person in the prison. No, it was great, as it turned out. And I found it interesting because at that point in time, Colette wasn't in the show anymore regularly. And she came back in and out. Okay, and so, as I was going to Sydney and her character was supposed to be in Sydney, I did the scenes with her. She was working in a shop. I was, and I beat up somebody while I was there. It was a housekeeper or something. I can't remember who that was.
There's less chance of you being seen out here. Besides, you might just make your way to the phone. My husband will be home soon. Oh, yes, poor Jerry. You don't really suppose he'll come looking for you out here, do you? As soon as he sees that house locked up and the car gone, he'll think you're away at one of your stupid committee meetings.
Episode 342 now, there's a beauty. You'll love this. I call this episode K for Killer, because in it, the wonderful character of Nola Mackenzie, played by the very, very skillful actress Carol Skinner, has really upset Bea to a point where Bea's just about had it. Not as much as she upsets her a few episodes later, but enough for Bea to deal out some of her sort of punishment.
Have you done the corridor around the corner?
Yes, Mrs. Powell.
Well, it doesn't look like it. It'll have to be done again, won't it? Yes, Mrs. Bell. You're not here to exercise. The idea is to get them clean.
Script requires that Bea actually knocks Nola out, gets her on her back, and then with the heated up soldering iron, writes the entire word killer right across her chest. And I said, oh, come on, don't be ridiculous. I'll be here for a week, and the smell of burning flesh, can you imagine? It would alert absolutely everybody. They went, oh, all right. So we actually sort of watered it down, so I just had to write K on her chest, which was pretty gruesome, really. But she was a pretty dreadful character. Bea never meted out punishment to anyone unless they really deserved it. And one of the things I liked about her character is she was never needlessly violent. But if you upset her enough, then she always came up with some sort of punishment that was extremely appropriate. And I think the branding was very appropriate. But I have to say that we had to control our laughter somewhat. Carol and I were in fits. We just thought it was so funny. And pretty unlikely.
It's Patty.
In the episode where Bea kills Nola Mackenzie, the script called for Bea to assemble a zip gun. Now, this is a gun made with hunks of wood, very strong elastic bands, ball bearing as a bullet, and match heads. And I'm not sure that people understand sometimes the level of responsibility that actors have. But I actually said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this on screen. I will show them the items, but I am not going to physically, as the script demands, put these together and make a zip gun and teach every kid or every person who watches this show how to make a lethal weapon. They went, oh, we hadn't thought about that. All right, so that's what happened. And so in the eventual filming of that scene, we showed the pieces, but you never ever saw me put them together because we actually made one on the set, and these guns really fire and they're dangerous and they can kill someone, and I wasn't into showing anyone how to do that. And now here we are at episode 400, which of course was my very, very last episode. I actually had walked into the Grundy offices 7 weeks earlier and said, I'm giving you 7 weeks' notice and leaving the show. I felt that I had learnt so much about Bea Smith and there was nothing more to learn, that she had nothing more to offer me. And I had another interesting offer elsewhere and decided to take it up. So I walked in and said, well, that's it. And then Sheila Florence, who played Lizzie Birdsworth, of course, brilliantly, said, well, if Val's leaving, I'm leaving too. And they talked her into actually staying a bit longer than me so that the two characters didn't leave on the same episode. And I begged them to allow Bea to kill the freak. But of course, having lost the two most favourite characters, I think, ever from the show, Bea and Lizzie, there's no way they could afford to lose the freak. So the freak had the job of getting rid of Bea, which I'm sure the freak really enjoyed. And they wouldn't kill me either. They wouldn't kill Bea, I mean. Sometimes I get a bit confused. They wouldn't kill Bea off. And instead they had her transported. They sent off to another prison, to good old Barnhurst.
Meg, I wasn't sure I'd catch you. Fry just called. There's been a riot at Barnhurst. Oh, no. One block's been completely burned out. It's just a shambles. They're transferring prisoners wherever they can find room. Our batch will be arriving in the morning. Is anyone hurt? One officer dead, 3 injured. Vera's in hospital. We're not sure how bad yet. Oh, God. What about the prisoners? 3 burnt to death. One of them was Bea Smith.
Kelly. Oh, yeah, I remember now. Bea Smith mentioned you. She said, that bitch. Yeah, her very words. How is Bea? They didn't send her out here too, did they? Bea's dead, dear. She was killed trying to stop the riot. I'm sorry, I thought you knew. Bugger me.
The Queen bitch is dead.
Strolled up to the manager's office at Channel 10, walked straight past his secretary, said, "Is he in?" "Yeah, right. I said, "Just coming to tell you that I'm leaving the show on Friday." And he went, "Sit down, Val." I said, "Now what's going on?" And I told him exactly, and I said, "And they won't negotiate." He said, "Oh." He said, "What are you asking for?" And I told him what it was exactly, and I told him why. And he went, "That is so far from outrageous."
Oh, really? Yeah, awesome.
And because my agent had said, the reason I did it was I was doing far more work than anybody else.
Yeah.
And she said, "You sure your ego's not getting the better of you?" And I went, I was 3 times ahead of the person closest to me in number of scenes that I'd done.
Yeah.
I did 26 scenes in a day once.
Shit,
You know,
that's a lot.
and I told the English and the Americans, they don't believe me.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, "I did."
I don't even remember watching it when you went on it.
They took it off in Brisbane, in Queensland, when I left the show.
Did they?
Yeah. I was told by the then publicity department, "You can be replaced overnight, Val, no one will care. Audiences are very fickle." I went, "Fine, doesn't matter. I'm not, doing it to do it up your nose to anybody.
Yeah.
I just want out. I don't want to play here anymore. I don't like it anymore. You're not nice to me anymore. I'm leaving."
Yeah.
And they got on their hands and knees and asked me to go back 3 times.
Oh, really?
And the 3rd time I said to my agent, "Look, the only thing these people understand is money. So just price me out of it.
Yeah.
Ask for this amount, which is per week, which is then $1,000 a week more than I was getting." This is 1983. This was December, and they wanted me to start in February, and I said, $1,000 a week between now and February.
Yeah, good.
To hang on to me.
Yeah.
They came back and said yes to the salary and no to the retainer. And I said, "No." I had a mole in the script writing department.
Yeah, right.
They said that they're going berserk, though. They're going to kill you off. And I went, "Oh, good." And they said, because they're so sick of people saying, "When's Bea coming back? When's Bea coming back?" People writing.
So what did they do? They just wrote you out as in...
They had me sent to another prison.
Oh.
And they burnt that prison down and I got killed in the fire.
Right, okay.
I couldn't have cared less.